name is Robert Ridley, and this is my presentation for AUP 858, Our Story, Bishop Ward High School. First, who are we? We're a private Catholic high school in Kansas City, Kansas. We serve a diverse population. About 70% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. We're very diverse, about 78% Hispanic, 8% African American, 4% Asian, 10% Caucasian. We have an enrollment around 300 students. We have 24 faculty members that teach across 8 departments, and we have 89% of our population do identify as being Catholic. How we do business. We collect data a couple of different ways. And our community has strong values. We also encourage extracurricular involvement. Let's start with the TNTP. So this is the New Teacher Project Survey. And basically, this is sent out for our faculty and staff, and even some of our students fill out a certain component to this survey. But it really is a setup to help support leaders, and basically to help us design a roadmap for improvement. It measures critical components of instruction and collects feedback directly from the teachers on how to improve and to make changes. So this is critical for us. Community and strong values. Our community prides itself on being hardworking. Our community is very trusting. Our parents trust that we are the experts, and they allow us the opportunity to do our jobs. And they are very family oriented. A lot of our community, a lot of our kids, one of the issues that we face is that we are in an area that is economically challenged a lot of times. The average household income is about $30,000 in our surrounding area. So a lot of times our biggest struggle too is dealing with our kids that they don't have time at home to necessarily study or look at educational materials, whereas instead they're having to leave school and go straight to work in order to help pay some of the bills. So this is definitely one of the challenges that we face when looking at how we do businesses, and one of the challenges that arises. Extracurricular involvement, again, that's the challenge with extracurricular involvement is the fact that a lot of our students have to go to work and help provide at home. However, we do pride ourselves that over a third of our school participates in extracurricular activities, and we also require service projects and for our students. So they have several service opportunities across the board, and we pride ourselves on providing service and kind of service above self. Who we are. So looking in comparison to the state, I chose 3 different things from the Kansas report card. ACT scores, graduation rates, and economically disadvantaged is the 3 components we're going to look at. Bishop Ward, our ACT score is around 18.5, whereas the state of Kansas is around 21.7. Our graduation rate, however, is really good at 98.6, whereas the state of Kansas is at 86.9. And economically disadvantaged, 67.8 at Bishop Ward, and economically disadvantaged for the state is around 51.7%. A couple things I find interesting about this, our graduation rate, it's an interesting number at 98.6, even though that is high. In my 7 years there, I can't recall a student that hasn't graduated. So I'd be interested to know kind of the difference there in the percentage. Also, the economically disadvantaged, 75% of our kids roughly are free and reduced. And just knowing the statistics for the average household income in our area being right around $30,000, I'm surprised that number of economically disadvantaged students isn't higher. Why we exist and where we want to be. Why we exist. Our mission is to provide a quality Catholic college preparatory education in a Christ-centered community that nurtures the body, mind, and soul of each student. We're not just there. Yes, academics are important. And we want to push those and have a rigorous curriculum. However, we also just want to make sure that we're developing good people, and that we are putting good people of high integrity out into our community. So that's who we are, and where we want to be. Some of the things I kind of listed that we'd like to really look at and improve upon. We really would like to improve our ACT scores. We'd really like to gather more data on student growth, and really place an emphasis on course selection and placement for our students. Where are the gaps? Our ACT scores, and comparable to the state, we're over 3 points behind. So that's an area that we definitely need to improve upon. Attendance, even though our attendance rate is good, and what I mean by true depiction there, we still have a lot of tardies and a lot of absences on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of that comes into play with just having to go to work or help having to provide at home, or be a daycare provider for younger siblings, or whatever the case may be. But just in really trying to improve upon that attendance rate, and especially the tardies, especially to school. We're on a true block schedule, so our first and fifth hours, really trying to improve upon some of that. We have a high tardy rate. And we feel like that is something that we could hopefully try to improve upon. We're looking at a couple of different things with a later start day, a couple of things along those lines. So there's some things that we have in play there. Class selection and placement. Prior to this school year, we were kind of missing some of that data in order to make the best decisions on where students should be placed and in what classes they should be placed in. In particular, looking at our regular courses and our honors courses and our college credit courses, really distinguishing between where the students should lie. We were kind of missing some data in order to place our students in the proper courses, and not just relying on teacher recommendation, but actually having that data there to make those informed decisions. How we get to where we want to be in implementation. Some of our action plan, map testing, which we implemented this year, utilizing Khan Academy through that map testing, and really just looking at student growth. The goal with our map testing is to accumulate longitudinal data that will indicate yearly progress, provide achievement status by class and by grade. Another thing that we really like about the maps is that it also provides individual growth reports. So they can include progress and projected proficiencies for each student. And we also use it to target areas of focus for individual students in various subjects. So that's one thing that we're really looking forward to, getting that data back and diving into it. We just got our fall testing data back and really diving into that. So also another plan is to continue with our practice ACT test scores, and utilizing those results to set goals and college programs of studies, and also implementing or putting into place our ACT prep class, which we have continued this year, and just really seeing a difference in the kids that take that class versus the kids that do not take that class, and just utilizing that data to see how much that class truly is helping. And then new requirements for course placement, looking at the map testing along with our high school placement test, and placing requirements on how you get into honors and how you get into the college credit courses, and not just based on pure teacher recommendation. Again, for the implementation piece, I kind of just spoke about the map testing that we implemented this fall. We have winter and spring coming up. Once we get all of the data back, we can then look at our whole yearly progress, see where we have growth, and then look at the areas that we know that we could focus on for improvement for next year. And we do this through collaborative meetings, setting up collaborative teams with our teachers and administrators, and having that open dialogue, discussing the data, and not just sitting in our office as administrators or as teachers at our desk and trying to break down all this data ourselves, but instead doing it as a collaborative, or doing it collaboratively together. I believe that's huge. Also, some implementation for climate and culture. Looking at our advanced ed surveys we'll be sending out this year to teachers, parents, and students, just to get the feel of the climate and the culture, because this is important. We have to foster an environment that's conducive to learning, and we want it to be safe, caring, but also transparent and rigorous at the same time. And then again, the implementation of just collaborative teams. So in order for us to be successful, we need to make sure that we are meeting not just as departments, but across curricular and so forth. And then how we can evaluate some of these efforts. Again, just tracking that longitudinal data that comes from our MAP testing, our practice ACT scores, our climate and culture surveys, and just really compiling all that data, breaking it down, and looking at it together and figuring out where we need to improve and putting the proper steps in place to improve. The only way that you can continually grow is to continually collect that data, analyze that data, and look for areas to improve upon. And as long as you're continually doing that, you should be on the path to improving. And as I say here, the breakdown of the collected data will allow us the opportunity to collaborate and critique current practices and continually make changes in areas that need improvement. So again, just looking at the data and continuing to attack those areas where we see the need for improvement. This is my presentation for AEP 858 and our story at Bishop Ward High School. Thank you for listening.